Hello, everyone. This is Profiler Pat Brown, and this is my favorite question of all time. Someone asked me, they said, Dear Profiler Pat, is it too late for me to attempt my dreams? I think I'm an expert on this subject. All right. No, it's never too late to attempt your dreams. And I have attempted my dreams at all the wrong times in my life where I would think it was way too late, like 10 or 20 or 30 years too late. But it is never too late to attempt your dreams. Well, I'll give a little caveat to that. Unless your unless your dreams are so ridiculous. Okay, so hi, I'm 95 years old and I want to be president of the United States. No, that's not happening. Hi, I am 40 years old. I'm in a wheelchair because I lost my legs, but I want to climb Mount Everest. Is it too late? Probably you needed more legs. Okay? There are things you will never be able to do in your lifetime just because. Hi, I'm 30 years old. I'm 4'2", and I'd like to be in the NBA. No, probably not happening. Doesn't mean you can't go to a lot of NBA games. Maybe that should be your dream. So you can achieve your dreams as long as they're at least, I'm not saying you can't have big dreams because I have had those and people have said, there's no way, Pat, you can achieve these things. And I've achieved them. But I also knew that in attempting to achieve certain dreams, you had to be realistic about the height you could go with those dreams. So there are so many dreams people would they like to have, like I want to be a star, I want to be a television star, I want to be a greatest musician in the world, I want to be president. There are so few people that get to have that chance to ever attain those kind of dreams. I mean, that's you might as well play the lottery. Okay, so you have to have dreams. You should have dreams, but you should have dreams that have some level of, okay, maybe I can't get here, but I could get here. And I'll explain this with some of my own experiences and how not getting here is okay because you can get enough of your dream about here. And you can do that at any stage of your life if you just want to enjoy the experience and not so much that, oh my gosh, I achieved this top level. No, no, no. Sometimes the top level isn't even worth achieving. There's people who've made it to the top level. There are Hollywood stars who've been in movies and then they get severely depressed and they're dead of fentanyl. Like, what the heck? Wow, I would have loved to have been in your shoes. Maybe you wouldn't have. Maybe you didn't realize what came with the fame. Okay, so I'll take you through some concepts of things to help you understand. Yes, I don't care if you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 80, 95. I don't care what your age is. There's always a dream that you can achieve if you want to experience it. Okay. For myself, when I was growing up, one of the things I wanted to do, I decided I wanted to, I wanted to go meet, I wanted to go to the gorillas in Uganda, okay, and Dian Fossey. I wanted to join with Dian Fossey, and I had this idea I wanted to be an anthropologist, and there was cultural anthropology and there's physical anthropology. I had experienced some cultural anthropology. Apparently, I thought that was drinking in cafes in West Africa, but I had some experience with it. And then I thought, oh, I'd love to analyze these, to live with the gorillas with Dan Fossey and not get attacked by poachers and killed in the night. But as Dian Fossey did, but I'm like, wow, I could be with these primates. I wrote to Dan Fossey, and I can't remember what happened. Somehow I never got there. But one thing I realized was my dream was incorrect to begin with, as it was with cultural anthropology. So first, I want you to understand, have the right dream. A lot of times we have illusions that aren't even what we really want, because I love traveling the world. I love different cultures. I love animals. What I don't love doing is taking notes, like studying a culture and having to write down notes and notes and notes and notes, or watching animals for 10 hours straight sitting under a tree and writing down that the animal is now eating a leaf. Write down eating a leaf. Oh my God. To me, that's torture. And so what I realized after I went to college a couple of times for both cultural and physical anthropology was that I didn't actually want to do the work that would have made me one of those things. So my dream was kind of stupid. Does that mean I don't love culture? No, I've traveled the world. I love different cultures, and I find them fascinating. I just don't want to sit in one spot and write a whole bunch of notes, because I never can read my notes anyway, because I can't read my writing. Luckily, there's computers now, but back in the day, it was kind of hopeless. But then I look and I say to myself, what happened? Did I achieve any of that part of the dream? And I will say this: I went to Egypt, and I got to meet a primate. Look at me, I'm kissing that primate. Yes, I am. We had a big smooch, and I'm lucky that thing didn't kill me. But it was an Egyptian zoo, and they said, "Do you want to kiss?" No, they didn't say that. They said, "Do you want to hold a baby gorilla?" And my thoughts went back to Dian Fossey, and I thought, "Oh my God, finally I get to hold a baby gorilla." And they brought out a teenage chimpanzee, which jumped on me and was really strong, and then decided to kiss me. And I wasn't going to refuse, because I thought it would rip my face off. And I kissed it, and I got a great picture. And most people write, "Why are you kissing my ex?" But anyway, I got that chance. So I didn't even want the dreams I thought I wanted, but I had aspects of those dreams, which I enjoyed tremendously, which was traveling to places in the world, and experiencing different cultures. Here's a great example. Let's see if I can find it. Well, I have traveled a lot of the world. I've traveled to India 5 times. And I don't do this expensively. So people who say, "Well, I have a dream to travel, but I don't have the money." Heck, I never spent more than $1,000 on a trip. I was really good at staying cheap. And there I am at the Taj Mahal. And here's a great picture of me and Annie Haley, who's one of the patrons of the channel. We're in Mongolia. Somebody said, "Why did you pick that?" And I said, "Well, I always wanted to say," when people ask me, "Hey," or they're joking around, they say, "Well, that's in Outer Mongolia." I can actually say, "No, it's not," because I've been there. And there we are, riding horses in Outer Mongolia. It was great. And I arranged these trips. I ran trips for women. I called it Older Women Cheap Travel. For $1,000, you had to pay your airfare. But outside of that, you got a trip that was less than $1,000 for the entire trip. It included it included your transportation on the ground. It included all your places to stay. It included all your entertainment, everything. I put it all together, and I arranged these trips, and I ran 5 different trips. And then I stopped because I was busy. But I ran 5 trips to Nicaragua, Mexico, India, China, Mongolia, and Cuba. And that was one of my dreams, was to do these trips. And one day I woke up and said, "I'll do these trips." And I did. And I called it Older Women Cheap Travel, because I was one of those older women. and I did it through Meetup, and came up with an idea and offered it to people, and they accepted it, and I did it. Could I have gotten a job as a tour guide on some of these, tour trips? I don't know. Maybe they wouldn't have liked my age. Maybe they wouldn't have thought I had the right credentials. But I made my own company, and the boss loved me. But I traveled. And so I got a chance to do that. Now, when I was younger, I went off to Hollywood with the idea of being a model and an actress. And here I am in one of my 19-year-old pictures. And I was cute, but so was every other girl in Hollywood. And I wouldn't do the casting couch. And so, quite frankly, I never got any much work. I did a lot of extra work, which look at that dream. I wanted to see what Hollywood was like, and I got to see it. I didn't get to be a star. you know, but I did get on a lot of sets. I remember meeting Burt Reynolds, and Cheech and Chong set is a famous one for me. I got to experience the Hollywood, uh, the life on the set. It was a very interesting experience. And if I didn't set my uh, desires up to be this high, I had to be a great star. If I could just say I wanted the experience, I got that experience. And I never did become a star. I didn't become I never, I wanted to be an actress, but I never acted in my life. Um, I think I could have modeled, but that's the way things go. And I thought, well, after I left, I said, well, I guess I could model in the future. And then I went to Denmark to study, and I got attacked by a cat, and it put a big scar on my face. And I said, well, that's it. I'll never be on television or in film because of the scar on my face. And then years later, when I was in my 40s, I ended up on TV for a decade and a half, did 3,000 appearances with a scar on my face in my 40s and 50s. So go figure. Sometimes you get to do things if you just keep doing things. It isn't necessarily in the order you think, but you get to do them. So I always say to people, why do you think you can't do things? You can. Now, when I was in my 30s, I had raised my children. Well, I was raising my children. I was homeschooling 3 kids, and I was in my 30s, and I had a liberal arts degree, and I thought, what am I going to do? I'd like to have some kind of way to earn money at some point. And so I saw this thing. I could go to a local community college and learn sign language. And I said, well, I could do that. But, the problem was, which is where the dream comes in, I didn't have any deaf family or friends. I never used sign language in my life. And I was already halfway through my 30s. So I wasn't able to go to the campus of Gallaudet University for the deaf and practice with all the other deaf people, and chat with them and go to a bar, I was home with 3 kids. I took my classes. I was good at it, but I ran into these difficulties. Like, how am I ever going to be able to get this work? Well, how I got the work was that an agency called me. They knew I had called them and tried to apply for the job, but they weren't all that thrilled about me. But at 2:00 in the morning one night, they had a snowstorm, and no interpreter was willing to go out in the snowstorm to this location, which was a hospital in shall we say, an area of the city that wasn't so safe. I said yes. I jumped in my car, drove through that stuff, went to that hospital. They were in love with me at that point. They called me the next night and the next night. And within a month, I was managing the interpreters, and I worked with them for 10 years. Was I the best interpreter in the beginning? No. I had everything against me. I actually never finished the entire entire sign language interpreter course because I'd already gotten this job. And I didn't have any deaf family or friends. And so I didn't have the experience growing up with sign language. But I was willing to go out there, and I spent time with people, and I chatted with them, and they liked me. And I made a career of it. In my 30s, who knew? It was very successful. But then I wanted to be a sign language I wanted to become a criminal profiler. And my ex-husband, who was a husband at that time, said, "You're nuts. You're not with law enforcement. You're not with the FBI. How can you be a profiler? You're in your 40s. Well, he had a point. What can't you do? Sometimes you cannot do things because of the rules and regulations. I couldn't join the police force in my 40s or the FBI. So no, I could not go that route. And I've had some FBI profilers say, well, how dare she? I'm like, well, profiling is not a skill of law enforcement. Profiling is a skill of analysis. I don't see why I have to be a police officer to do that, nor do I have to be in the FBI to learn that. So I decided I was going to pursue that. And I did. And I read 400 books. I went to seminars. I started my own agency. What can I say? 20 years later, 20, it's almost 30 years now. Here I am in India. IIM presents Ms. Pat Brown, world renowned in criminal profiling and investigative analysis. This was back in 2008 that I spoke to the CBI, which is like the FBI of India, and to private investigators to give a whole, there was a day's worth of a seminar. I was about 40s. I did not have the experience in law enforcement, but I thought I'll give it a shot because I was fascinated by it and interested. Now, does everybody succeed? Well, this is the problem people have. If you have an endpoint of success, you may not achieve that. I've always kind of thought it would be nice to have my own profiling show. Discovery Channel. I was up for so many of my own shows. It's ridiculous. I can't tell you how many what you call sizzle reels I've gone through, where a production company says, "Pat, we want you to do a profiling show," and we would do something. I wouldn't get paid for it, and I'd do it, and then they'd send it into different different companies, and then it would get rejected. But I had this one with Discovery Channel, and it was called Rewind with Pat Brown. I think that's the name of it. Rewind with Pat Brown. My idea was to take them back and rewind the crime and show how all the evidence would then be able to show you how the crime went down. They loved it. I remember doing it. It was a beautiful sizzle reel. Discovery loved it. It went up through the ranks, got right up to the top, and everybody was like, "Oh," they even had posters and crap. Hey, we're gonna start the new show. Got to the top. I don't know what schmuck knocked it down. Maybe because I wasn't an FBI profiler, retired. I don't know. And one day I just died. And I'm like, called them. So what the heck? And they said, they went on and I went on. I never got that show, that series. I've seen other people go on to get the series and I never have. If I have that, I have to have a television series of my own as my dream. I may just be screwed because I don't know that I can achieve that. What I can achieve is experiencing criminal profiling. Now, there are other people who go into this field and they experience it in different ways. So you don't always have to achieve this level. You could, for example, want to be an actress and, Hollywood's out for you because let's say you have children and you're working in your town or your city but you love acting. Well, there's community theater. People act in community theater and get a great deal of pleasure out of it. You're still an actress. Just because you're not in Hollywood doesn't mean you didn't achieve a dream. If you're a musician, most musicians do not achieve great fame. There's only a few of them, and there's all the other musicians out there who play in their cities, in their towns, at local bars, at clubs. Some to stay in their garage and enjoy the hell out of it because they are living the dream playing music. So if you want the experience that you can get, that you can always achieve some incredibly ridiculous level of fame is not so reasonable. So yes, maybe it's too late and you're too short to play in the NBA. Does that mean you can't play ball? No. Does that mean you can't enjoy basketball? No. There's things you can do to enjoy basketball without being in the NBA. There's things you can do. Table tennis, for example. I played table tennis in my 30s, and I played with the table tennis club, so it wasn't too bad. And then I came back in my 60s because I found a table tennis club near me, and I found a coach, and he was really good. And so I started getting coaching in my 60s, just like last year, so 67. And my game started really picking up, And so I was starting to play the people in the club. And in the beginning, I'm like, why can't I beat the 8-year-old little champion to be? He's really good, I mean, but then eventually I'm like, hey, I can get points on that kid, and then I started being able to play people at higher levels in the club. And they were like, wow, you're really good. And am I going to play Am I going to win an international or national championship in table tennis? Probably not. Could I win the senior division? I don't know, maybe one day. I know that if you hang around long enough in any division, you're the last one standing. If you're like 95 and play table tennis, you're gonna get that. You're gonna get the the trophy the like. Oh, look at that! Put it around my neck. You're gonna get that. But hey, maybe that's gonna be a fun thing. I don't know. But I started playing table tennis and took it back up again 30 years later. I don't have unrealistic expectations, but I have an interesting time playing now. And it's fun because I'm learning things. I'm learning more skills than I have had in years. And it's not boring because I keep picking up things. And sometimes I'm playing somebody new and I realize, oh my gosh, I'm actually doing these great shots. And I'm like, it must be going into my head and my body because I'm way better than I was like 3 months ago. So cool. That's really neat. There's all kinds of writing. My father always wanted me to be an author. And I wasn't an author because, as I said, I can't read my own writing. And then I typing, the old typing days when you had to type in a stupid typewriter and then you had to put what's that little piece of white stuff you stuck in there and you get rid of your mistakes. And then if you wanted to send in a book, you had to send in a clean copy. Do you know how many ridiculous hours it takes to make a clean copy on a typewriter? Well, if you're old enough and are an author, God bless you, because I didn't have the energy for that. So it wasn't until I got real computers, and I don't mean the earlier ones with the green screen. I mean like laptops and iPads. And suddenly, oh my gosh, I could write because I could write as quickly as I thought. And so I started writing. And I was like, wow, who knew? My father was thrilled because I finally achieved his dream. And that's my second book. But I wrote Killing for Sport was my first book. This is my second book. Might have been my third book. My fiction book is Only the Truth. You can find that in the links below. And it was a very successful book. I've got lots more books to write. Now, again, do I have the, I don't know, what do you want to call it? The greatest American novel ever written? No. Would I love to? Sure. What if that were my dream? I want to write the great American novel. I'm going to go live in a cabin in the woods and write the great American novel. Okay. Be realistic. Probably not. Now, you could. I've written one fiction novel one day. Maybe it'll be more popular than it is even today. Or maybe my next book will be better. I don't know. But it's the experience of writing to be an author. And nowadays you can self-pub, so you can be an author. You might suck, but you can still be an author. You can have the experience. There's so many things you can do, and it doesn't have to be at any point in your life. Just keep doing stuff, for gosh sake. Just do it. I wanted to experience life in India. So I went to India, and there I am in India. I've been there 5 times. Here I am. I'm working at a deaf school. I didn't sign in Indian Sign Language. I only sign American Sign Language, but I went to work at this deaf school, volunteered for a month, and I had a fabulous time. And the kids were great. And what an experience. In Punjab in India, I got to ride the school bus and work with the kids, and it was really cool. I sucked at ISL, Indian Sign Language, because I just hadn't learned it yet. So now I'm studying it again. I think in January, which will be a year from now, I'm going to try to go back for 3 months in India and work at a deaf school, hopefully with more Indian Sign Language. And it'll be volunteer. I won't make any money at it. But what an experience it's going to be. So if I always wanted to interact with deaf children, I have an opportunity. So if you want to do certain things in life, you always loved horses but never got to be around them, you could take up horse riding lessons. And my granddaughter rides horses now, and she helps out in the stables. You could do that. Doesn't matter how old you are or young you are, you can do that. Just anything, anything. Here's a funny story. So when I was, how was it? So it was 2003. My marriage was collapsing, and I was in a bad mood. And one day I decided, I just got to get out of the house. And I went to the movie theater, and I wanted to just sit there in the dark watching a movie. And so I sat down. The movie started, and then the thing melted on the screen. It just melted. So the projector had gone on fire. And so I'm like, for God's sakes. So I went out there to the front, not the desk, what do you call it, the ticket guy. And I said, hey, it just melted. And he goes, oh, sorry about that. You want your money back? I'm like, well, I'd just like to see another movie. Have you got anything? I didn't want to go home. And I didn't want to go to a bar. It wasn't my thing. I just wanted peace and quiet. And he goes, well, all the movies have started. They've been going for 30, 40 minutes. And I'm like, oh. And then he said, oh, well, wait, we have an Indian movie. But it's 3 hours long. And I'm like, 3 hours, this is great. And he said, it does have English subtitles. Bang, So anyway, yes, I went and saw my first Indian movie. And I fell madly in love with the clothes and the jewelry and the music and the dance. So when I left there, and I then subsequently moved to stay with my sister in Minnesota, I went online and this site called India Files, and I looked for a Bollywood dance class, and I found one for ladies. And this is very unusual because most of the time they're for children, but this was actually first time ladies group in Minnesota. So I called up the woman who was running the group, Renu, and I said, hey, I just moved to Minnesota, and I'm not Indian, and I'm in my 40s, and I've never danced. But can I join your group? And she said, okay. And she said, sure. Now, my dream, when I saw this movie, I'm watching the movie, I said, my dream is I'm going to dance at an Indian wedding. Yeah. I mean, this is kind of ridiculous, but not like I want to be president of the United States. Just a little ridiculous, but possibly achievable. So anyway, I joined this group, and I had to tell myself, you're going to be so humiliated when you do this because you don't know anything about the culture. You don't know any Indian people. You can't dance. But what the heck? Check it out. So anyway, I went there. Was I humiliated? You betcha. I mean, I was like really bad. Oh, And they're like, no, don't do that. and I struggled, but I got better and better. And one day they were like, okay, we're going to do a performance at one of the Indian temples, mandirs, and all this huge Indian community is going to be there to watch. And I was terrified because for whatever reasons, they stuck me in the middle. I don't know why. And I was doing stuff, anyway. And they're like, I'm like, oh my God, no, I've never danced. I've never done this dance in public. I've never danced before. And now I have to do this dance in public. I was horrified. And they said, oh, don't worry. Don't worry, Pat. They won't even notice you. And I'm like, but I'm the tall blonde in the middle. But I went on stage anyway. And they thought because I did television that this would be a breeze. But I'm like, television's easy for me. This is terrifying. But I went on stage, and I remember hardly knowing what I was doing. I was just terrified. And I danced. I don't know how I got through it. And afterwards, one of the teenage girls came up to me and she said, Auntie, you dance so nicely. And I was like, oh my God, really? And so I continued on, and here I am, still dancing. Here I am, still dancing. Here I am, still dancing. So I did dance, and I ended up getting paid $50 to dance in an Indian wedding. So. I still want to be in a Bollywood movie. And since I think I'm going to go to India next January, I'm going to take a Bollywood class over there as soon as I lose the weight, so I'm not a frumpy white lady. Gory. Okay, I don't want that. So I have to improve my looks. And then maybe I'll take a Bollywood class. And, well, of course, I'm not in Mumbai, which is where the big stuff is for Bollywood. But, I want to get into an Indian movie and be the elderly white lady dancing in the village. Will I achieve this? I don't know. But you have to have fun. You do. You have to have fun. But, not everything has to be big. This is another thing. People, I think dreams have to be big. Dreams don't have to be big. Dream can be having a new pet. I've always wanted to have, I don't know, a cat, a dog, a pig, I did have a pig for 20 years. I like lizards. I've had lizards. I went out and got one, and then I experienced it. That was a dream. A dream can be I want to learn how to play a game. A dream can be I want to go camping. A dream can be I want to go to some of the major campsites in the United States, and people do RVing. I mean, your dream doesn't have to be so ridiculously high that it's not achievable. And as far as age goes on a lot of this, and people think they're not talented either. I want to address this. Oh, I'm 40 years old and I never took piano and I want to learn piano, but I guess it's too late because children learn so quickly and we adults can't learn. Garbage. Children learn really slowly. Really slowly. Are you telling me that you put a book in front of a 5-year-old and you say, okay, C, D, E, F, G? That kid is like, okay. If you're an adult, you can learn C, D, E, F, G really quick. All right. You can learn that. My sister was a piano teacher and she did an experiment with me. She said, okay, here's what I want you to do. I have these kids who never practice and adults who never practice, and they're in the freaking same book a year later. What the heck? So she said, would you do this book? And I don't play piano. So I wasn't doing any instruments. So I'm like, okay. So I put the thing up and I followed the directions in the book. And I came back probably, I don't know how, a few days later and went, okay, I'm finished. And she tested me and she goes, yeah, you are. Now, how did I do that in a few days? Because I simply looked at the book and followed directions. I'm an adult. I can think. I don't need some person trying to get my little 5-year-old brain to function. 5-year-olds, same thing with languages. Oh, children learn languages so much quicker. No, they don't. The reason they learn more quickly is because you put them in an arena. Like, let's say you move to another country and your kid is 6. They have to go to school. They spend 6 hours a day in that language. Then they go play with friends who all speak that language. Yes, they learn the language. What do, adult? You stay hidden in your home because you're afraid to go out there and talk to anybody in that language. And then you find all the other people who speak only your language. So if you speak English, you find English-speaking people like expats. You hang around them. I know Spanish people who they've been in this country 5 years and can't speak a word of English. Why? Because they provide cleaning services with other Spanish women and their kids go to school and speak English, but they spend all their time with their Spanish speaking El Salvadorian, whatever, whom they're El Salvadorian, Mexican, Nicaraguan, whatever, their relatives or their workmates. Same thing with guys on construction jobs. My son used to work with that and all Spanish speaking. They never learned English because they're always with the language they grew up with. So if you're only hanging around the language you grow up with, you're never going to really get good, but you can, and you will learn faster. You can't tell me if I go over to India and I take Hindi every morning for 3 hours, you don't think I can learn Hindi faster than a 6-year-old? Of course I can, because I can understand what the teacher's saying and I can pay attention and listen and do the writing and all this stuff a 6-year-old cannot. The problem is adults don't do it. They get distracted. They don't practice their piano every day. They don't practice the language every day. And they think, oh, I can't learn that because I'm already an adult. No, you can learn it 5 times as fast as a kid if you try. So yes, you have those opportunities that you can try all of these things and learn much more quickly than any child could. But you just keep telling yourself you can't, but you can. Now, again, are you going to become, a top pianist? Are you going to become a concert pianist and play at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C.? You starting at 40? Probably not. But then again, let's say you were 40 and came into a whole bunch of money so you didn't have to work. Your kids are grown. And you just want to sit at your piano day in and day out. In 20 years, when you're 60, could you be a concert pianist? My guess is the answer is yes. Reality is most of us aren't going to do that crap, so we're not going to become concert pianists. And of course, you have to have a relative amount of some level of talent. But as the Chinese people have proven, a lot of times it's more work than talent, because in the US, we keep thinking it's just talent. Not so. A lot of times it's the fact you're willing to do it. For example, I decided to take art classes at the senior center because I work from home and it's isolating. Now, I love you guys. I do a lot of live shows just so I can interact with all of my people that are interested in criminal profiling. But a lot of it I do by myself, and sometimes I just walk around in my house. I'm a single woman, and I live alone, and I need to get the hell out of here and see human beings that aren't, not just through the screen. And I want to, touch those people in a nice way, a hug, and be around people. And so went up to the senior center and I started taking some art classes. And my mother was an watercolor artist, but she never taught me a thing. And I did one art class once when I was interpreting, and I interpreted for it. I got to draw some pictures, which is cool. And then I never did another thing. And that was my 30s. So 30 years, I had never picked up a pencil or took a class. I didn't know if I had ability. But then I started taking these classes. I started listening to teacher. How do you do things? How do you do that? How do you do this? And here's some of the work I've done. This is pastel. I love pastel. This is my granddaughter with a doggie. This is my deceased cat, Ziggy. This is a place. I don't know where it is. It was supposed to be India, but it turned into, I don't know where. Some people say it looks more like Montana, but it just happened that way. This is actually a beach in India. And this is one of my favorite pictures. I did this chameleon. This is also in pastel. Obviously, I love pastel, and I think I'm mostly a pastel person. Who knew I could do anything with art? Now, I'm not Grandma Moses. I don't know that my artwork's going to sell for $5,000 a pop. I'm going to become a great artist and I'm going to display all my artwork in the best of galleries. No, but I'm doing art and I love some of the art I'm doing and I enjoy it. And who knows, maybe I will sell some of my stuff at some point. But I'm getting to do art. I took a knitting class. I never knit in my life. That was also at the senior center. And I was the only reason I took it was because I never thought I'd like knitting, but I was in India and that's where I got introduced to knitting. And you say, isn't that a hot place? Why would you get into knitting? Well, I was in Punjab in the winter. I didn't know that northern India was so incredibly cold. So everybody's wearing sweaters and vests and all the women were knitting. I'm like, holy crap. So I was watching them and it's just kind of cool. So when I came back, they had a knitting class at the senior center down the road. It's 10 minutes away. I'm like, what the heck? I never thought I'd like it. I loved knitting. Okay, I've only learned to make scarves. I haven't gotten anything more, but still, I made these cool scarves. And I'm so happy. I was so happy. It was like going away to camp, and you learn how to make something when you're at Girl Scout camp, one of those like the things you like weave and stuff. And I'm like, I made myself a really nice, it was fun. And am I going to be a great knitting person? Probably not. Did I achieve a dream? Well, I always wondered whether I could knit. I saw people do it. I see them sitting there at I don't know, on a train or in a waiting room and they're knitting or crocheting. And it just always looks so neat because the feeling of the materials. And so this is a little dream. And then I went to class and I did that. Now, what's so cool, and I want to point this out to you guys, just because you did something once doesn't mean you can't do it in the future or in a different way. I mean, I didn't knit this year. I just wasn't in my schedule. But 5 years from now, I might be someplace and I take up knitting again, or I learn to crochet. Who knows what I could learn next? I don't know. There's always new things to learn, and learning can be your dream, to learn things, to experience things, and experiencing things. That's a great dream. You don't, again, have to experience this ridiculous whatever people try to come up with. Like, for example, I want to experience taking a cruise around the complete world for like $200,000. Maybe not. Maybe you could do something else that was also traveling, but you get to see different places. I say I always travel cheap, and I enjoy that because I get to involve myself with culture. I stay in Airbnbs with families. I get to meet people. I take local transport, anything. And in Africa, mammy wagons. I've taken Oh my God, chicken buses, all these things that, just trains where you sleep on the train in India. And it's so great. And just great experiences. Uh, there's so many things you can do. Those can be dreams. But again, you can also have dreams right in your own house. I want to read some of the greatest books. I recommend Moby Dick. I recommend David Copperfield. I recommend Heidi. What a great book Heidi is. What am I? Oh, Count of Monte Cristo. I'm reading right now. That's fabulous. If you're Indian, Devdas. If you're not Indian, Devdas. It's like the Romeo and Juliet of India. It's fabulous. You can read. You can see some of the greatest movies of all time just on Amazon Prime or Netflix or YouTube. Some of the greatest movies of all time that you never knew. I saw those during COVID because I was bored. But that could be a dream. I want to see the top movies. I want to write my history, in which I've seen people do that. They write the history of their lives, and they're fascinating. Everybody has such a different history. It's just the coolest thing. I love reading other people's histories. And they're like, I grew up in this town, and this is where my parents were, and this is what the town folk were like, and this is how I got to where I am in life. And some of the most fascinating experiences people have gone through. So they, writing people's they journals of their lives is just it's something fantastic. So there's music, there's art, there's dance, there's line. People love line dancing. Line dancing is a fun thing to do. You can become a great line dancer. Again, do you have to be on YouTube and have a line dance channel? No. Maybe you can just enjoy line dancing. Maybe you want to learn to cook better. Experience more. Say, I'm going to learn how to cook Chinese cooking. I've always wanted to learn how to do all those, really cool, like little dumplings and things. I want to learn all of those. There's so much on the internet. You can go on YouTube and they'll teach you how to make those things. And then you can give those to your family. You can become a great Chinese cook. You might open a Chinese restaurant, even if you're not Chinese. There's so many things you can do. Just amazing stuff that you can start with a small dream and you can become a bigger dream. I don't have to tell you about my sister. So my sister Joyce sometimes listens to my shows. And if you're here, Joyce, I'm going to talk about you. So my sister Joyce is in the villages. And during COVID, she had this idea that there were these people in the villages who like to do puzzles. And they couldn't get, it gets expensive, buying puzzles at $15, $20, $30 a shot. And they were stuck at home. Some of them didn't use Amazon. And so they weren't being able to do their puzzles, which they love to do on a regular basis. Sometimes people were homebound. Sometimes people had a measure of Alzheimer's. Sometimes people just love puzzles. And they weren't getting to do enough of them and didn't have access to enough of them. And so my sister Joyce, she started something just amazing. It's called Puzzles on Wheels. And what she did was she gathered up puzzles, and she always made sure they were good puzzles because she doesn't like these really garbagey puzzles with ugly pictures and missing pieces and bent boxes. But she always good boxes, all the pieces, great pictures. And she started putting them into categories: 100, 300, 500, 1,000. And she developed a website, and I'll put that in the link below because it's just cool. But you have to be in the villages, or you're not going to be able to partake. But she started this during COVID, and she started delivering these two. You get two puzzles each time. You go online, you pick out your two puzzles. They're delivered to your house, and then the next time you order two more. You put your puzzles outside that you finish, and it's exchanged for two new puzzles. And she started this small, and it grew and it grew and it grew. My goodness, you should see how many puzzles she has. Unbelievable. She's got people packaging. She's got people driving, and it's all volunteer. She doesn't make a penny. People do donate to the Puzzles on Wheels in order to keep the puzzles going and to pay for all the stuff they're doing. 100% volunteer organization. Sometimes they have 200 people ordering every week or every other week their puzzles. She started up. It's just amazing. She has puzzle days where people she set up a whole room where people come in and they do puzzles together, just as a way to socialize. It's phenomenal. She had an idea about puzzles and how she could help people be able to do these puzzles during COVID. And Wow, what it's turned into is incredible. So sometimes you have a little dream, it turns into a bigger dream, and a dream you didn't even know existed. You didn't even know you wanted that, but it became that. So yes, you can do this at 20, at 30, at 40, at 50, at 60, at 70, 80, 90. I don't care what age you are. Have a dream, small, big, but enjoy the experience of working on your dream. And when you do that, you achieve the dreams, but in one measure or the other. And then you say to yourself, wow, I did so many cool things in the last year because I decided I could. That's it. That's it. I just want to say, yes, it's never too late. Yes, you can do something and enjoy it. And when you look back, you're going to realize you achieved a lot more dreams than you thought you ever could. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you for listening. If you're new to Profiler with Pat, Dear Profiler Pat, my channel is Profiling with Pat Brown. If you're new to Dear Profiler Pat, a lot of times people send in questions, send it into my email, profilerpatbrown@gmail.com. You send in your question. A lot of times it's how do I deal with people? How do I deal with things in life? Just different questions. I do this just because I like doing Dear Profiler Pat. So yeah, I don't mind being and what do they call that? No, I forgot the name of it. Something auntie. I forgot what it's called. Agony auntie? Is that what it is? People call it, oh, I got this problem. What do I do? But I like solving problems. I like helping people solve problems. I don't solve them for people. I give ideas that hopefully some of it will be useful to you. And so I hope today you'll never think it's too late, because quite frankly, it never is. Bye-bye.